Hi, I'm Randy Robison. Welcome to Life Today. And if you're watching this interview, I should probably warn you, the CIA could be watching you. And that's because I've got a former CIA agent on the set with me. Michele Rigby Assad is the author of Breaking Cover, and she's right here on Life Today. Michele, Ahlan wa sahlan.
Ahlan bik. Bitkellem Arabi.
No, you just went right by me. That's all the Arabic I know, just for this.
I'm impressed. I'm impressed.
So you're fluent in Arabic?
Not fluent, no, not at all.
Okay.
But I definitely spend a lot of time studying Arabic.
Yeah. Okay, so for everybody going, what? Give us the short version of the long story.
Sure. So I spent 10 years working undercover as a counterterrorism officer in the CIA. And my husband and I worked together.
Mm-hmm. He's Egyptian?
He is originally from Egypt, yes. And we spent the majority of our career in the Middle East.
So one thing you talk about is the sort of the disconnect that it's required of you in order to be in the CIA, to be a good agent.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that, because that's interesting. I'm gonna follow up on that. But
sure. I mean, the CIA is looking for this wild contradiction. So they're looking for people who are able to lie, because essentially when you live undercover and work undercover, you're lying about who you are and what you're doing. But they're looking for honest people, because they're trusting you with the nation's most sensitive information.
it's crazy.
Yeah. And so they need you to be patriots. You know, they're looking for people who love their country, but are willing to leave it behind to go to the ends of the earth to serve their government.
Yeah.
And so it is this very interesting personality that they're looking for.
So that's my follow-up question. As a Christian,
Yeah.
how do you deal with that? How do you balance that? How do you almost justify it in some sense?
Yeah, so for me, I was keenly aware of the threat to the United States due to terrorist ideology. So my husband, as an Egyptian Christian, grew up in a place that was really the foundations of Al-Qaeda's ideology, and was intimately familiar with that, and actually had to come to the United States for his education. So the idea of working as a counterterrorism officer just seemed like such a noble task. The idea of working undercover is not all that different than what a lot of missionaries do when they work in sensitive parts of the world and they can't tell everyone that they're a missionary or what they're up to. It's similar in that regard.
That's true, yeah. That, and interestingly, when you got out of the CIA, you went back to do some, I guess, would you consider it missionary work or undercover work? A little of both, right?
Consulting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's very interesting. It's scary to leave the CIA because you have no resume. You can't tell anyone what you've done for 10 years. You have no Rolodex. You have no social media platform or connections. So it was really terrifying, but we really felt God calling us after 10 years out. Soon thereafter, we were contacted by a group of Americans who said, we need to help Middle Eastern Christians that are persecuted by ISIS. Some of them, we need to help them remain in the Middle East and help make their lives better, and some of them just need to leave. So we were brought into this really fascinating project, said, what can we do? And it was quite a miraculous experience, because in the space of only like 4.5 months, we were able to identify a group to work with, vet those people, and then use our diplomatic skills to search for a country willing to take these Christians. And in 4.5 months, by the grace of God, we successfully evacuated 149 Iraqi Christians out of northern Iraq. These were people displaced from their ancient villages by ISIS, and fly them to their new homes in Slovakia.
So what exactly did you do? You have to sort out the legitimate refugees from the people with bad intentions?
Exactly. If we're going to put our name on it, if Joseph and I are going to stand behind this and say, these people are needy and they really need help, we need to make sure that there's nobody in that mix that could pose a security threat to a receiving country.
Yeah.
And what's so really cool is that we have these special set of skills.
So did you interrogate all these poor Christians?
So we met with them and we interviewed them, and we used our vetting skills to be able to be sure that they are who they say they are, make sure their story stands up. And then also, we had mounds of documentation on each person.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so we had to scrap at least one person out of the group that was a bad guy, who had said he was a convert to Christianity and was not at all.
How did you know?
Yeah, that guy.
What can you say,
oof,
right?
was fascinating.
Yeah.
So when someone leaves Islam, Islam says you cannot leave the religion except the threat is death. You know, this is a huge decision.
Right, right.
So if you leave Islam either to be agnostic, atheist, Christian, or anything else, you're risking your life. And so when we said the first question, why did you convert to Christianity? He said, well, you know, I woke up one day and I thought to myself, I kind of lean more towards Christianity than Islam, so I'll just convert. Immediate red flag.
Yeah, right, right.
Yeah, that's just not something you do because one day you woke up on that side of the bed.
Yeah, you got to decide whether, and is that true across Islam, or is it only true in certain sects?
It tends to be true. Pew did a poll several years ago and found out like the majority of people living in Muslim majority countries in places like Indonesia, Egypt, Palestine, Morocco supported the death penalty should you leave Islam.
Okay.
So high is like 75–80% of the population believe that.
Okay, so basically he was saying, I decided I'm okay having the death penalty hanging over my head.
Right.
Just woke up one day, right?
And the other key question that was quite interesting was, what do you think of Jesus? This is what my husband asked him. And he said, well, he was a really great man. Well, he's regarded as a prophet in Islam.
Yeah.
And they think of him as a really great man. But right there was the other big red flag.
Yeah.
If you're a Christian, he's your savior.
Right.
You know, he's your life changer. And we knew immediately that he had no idea what Christianity really was.
Interesting. And you mentioned that you had no resume, you couldn't talk about, you know, you can't walk into your job interview and say, well, I spent 10 years in the CIA, and here's what I did. But you got a book out.
Which is an act of God, really.
Yeah, I mean, so you kind of are. How did you pull that off?
Well, you know, when God tells you to do something, it took 7 years.
Okay.
But I knew that he had called me to share my story, and he actually said to write a book, which I had no dream of ever doing at all.
You'd think you couldn't, or it'd be a thin book because you got to say.
I knew that it meant I had to drop cover, which meant asking the CIA for this special dispensation to do so.
Okay.
And they don't have to say yes.
Right.
I knew that I had to do it in true name and not pseudonym, and that was a big deal, and I would have to get permission to do that. But I also knew that if God was calling me, he would open those doors. And so again, it was an act of God to get a book deal because, again, I'm not Kim Kardashian with 20 million Twitter followers.
Right.
But I have a really compelling story.
Yeah. So now, going forward, you and your husband I've seen you guys in some interviews on NBC and other places like that. What primarily are you guys focusing on?
So we still are security consultants. So we primarily focus on Middle East, North Africa, and Europe. And now the book has become really a full-time job, and we are on the speaking circuit. So anywhere we can get out and tell our story and inspire people to live a life of courage, to walk through their fears, that's what we're very passionate about.
Wow.
And also combining our very unique backgrounds, which is intelligence and security, counterterrorism, with our Christian faith. So now we've been, asked to help churches with security and things of that nature. So it's really fun to kind of merge those two worlds.
Yeah, as someone who's about to head off to Africa soon.
Yes.
I can see how someone like you would be very helpful, because I've been in some situations where there's lots of machine guns and some unsavory characters, and and
knowing how to react in those situations is really...
Are you busy in a few weeks?
We need to talk.
Yeah, really.
Exactly.
Great stuff. Okay, check out the book. What's the website if people want to follow up and learn more about what you guys do and more about the book?
Yeah, so it's MicheleRigbyAssad.com, just as it's on the book there.
Great.
Yes.
Check out their website. Check out the book. Fascinating book. I mean, talk about one of a kind, right? You're not going to hear this. You're going to hear this anyplace else. Check out the book, and you can hear more from Michele when she's on Life Today, the broadcast program. That's available at lifetoday.org. Thank you for watching and sharing this interview. Be sure to check out the social media for Life Today Television, and you can connect with me on Facebook and Twitter. And if you haven't already subscribed or followed this channel, do it now so you can see more of our great guests.